Hello YouTube, I'm Chris from CodeReviewVideos.com. Before watching this video, I'd like to let you know that I have over 500 similar videos available on my site, CodeReviewVideos.com. If you love Symfony, then you'll feel right at home here. I'll show you how to build both websites and JSON APIs, and then we're going to talk to those JSON APIs using React and Redux. There's courses on Docker and Ansible, as well as loads on deployment and test-driven development and behavior-driven development. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and as ever, thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Chris from CodeReviewVideos.com, and in this video we're continuing on with our journey from Symfony 3 to Symfony 4. So in the previous tutorial we covered the most basic change to get us from Symfony 3.2 up to Symfony 3.4. And we saw that this removed the web server, so we had to add that in using a composer require against the Symfony web server bundle. So I'm going to go ahead and start up the web server again, because before we bump up to Symfony 4, it's essential that we find and fix any deprecated code. I'm just going to start off by doing a tail -f to follow var logs the dev.log. You can see this is already stuff that's in the dev logs. I'm just going to push return a few times there to enter a little space just visually so that we can see what happens when we refresh the page. As soon as we've refreshed the page, we saw in the previous video that we get this on the web debug toolbar where we can see our deprecations and whatnot, but it's also all stored in the log file as well. We're not going to use the log file too much, to be honest. I just wanted to show you that the data is there also. So we're going to primarily focus on what we can see from the web debug toolbar. I'm just going to do a command and click there to open this in a different tab and then go to the deprecations tab. And we can see by looking through it that some of these things, although they might look scary initially, are pretty much, if you're unsure about it, just copy the whole message and paste it into Google and have a look for what comes up, because by now most of this stuff is already solved. And we can see stuff like this, it relates to Symfony in general. So if you opened up any Symfony project, you're going to see these sorts of things when you bump up to Symfony 3.4. But yet there is also stuff that's specific to our project, and you should recognize this because it will be, stuff that's actually things that make sense to you. In our case, this GitHub API. You can go through and see them all. And the idea is that we reduce or remove all of these deprecations before we bump up to Symfony 4. So right off the bat, you can see these are Symfony ones. This would be specific to our project. This is specific to our project, but is related to a bundle that we're using. And again, these are all Symfony ones as you go through. And you don't need to know this, honestly. As I say, if you're unsure about any of it, just Google it. So we're going to tackle these. The first one, load class cache and do load class cache. What this is telling us is in our web, under app and app dev, we need to remove load class cache. Now you can see Symfony has deprecated these methods, which is why PHP Storm shows them as having a line through them. I'm just going to remove both of them. You don't need to comment them out, especially if you're using Git. Don't leave them in there commented out, just remove them. But the thing is, Symfony 4 actually uses a different structure to this anyway, so removing these isn't super high priority, I suppose, but it does get rid of the warning. So we'll now just give this a refresh. We should see that we're down to 12. And again, we need to go into the profiler. Let's give that a refresh. Go to latest, deprecations, and we've got rid of them top two. We're going to cover our own deprecations in a separate video, and likewise, third-party bundle code will be covered separately, so we're just going to move on, in this case, to this one, which also brings in these ones. You can see it's telling us this is a problem in config dev, line 20, 23, and 23. So if we go into our config dev, I'm just going to close off some of these, config dev, and essentially what this is telling us is something to do with scalars. Where are we? Unquoted scalar value, which simply means we need to put some quotes around these values. Basically, the messages are a little bit more scary than the actual problems. So again, let's give this a refresh. We should be down to 9 now, and I might as well refresh that whilst we're doing that. Hopefully that works. Yeah, so we can see deprecations down to 9. Next up, we've got this framework.trusted proxies configuration key. Well, unless you're in an enterprise application, it's very unlikely that this is going to be a problem for you. It's to do with load balancers and things like that. Again, I've only ever seen this used inside very large applications, particularly in enterprise. And again, what this is saying is, even though it's a little bit less clear this time, under framework, we've got this trusted proxies. Just going to get rid of that. If you have any trusted proxies set, then at this point you would need to follow the guidance. And I've got this in the show notes, so just look for the link. It's a little bit trickier, this one, because you would need to add it to your app or app dev. And again, then you would need to migrate it across to the new structure when you move up to Symfony 4. So we should be down to 8 deprecations at this point. Let's give that a refresh. I'm not going to look at each one, but you can see we're down to 8 So again, framework trusted proxies, we've done that. Not setting logout on user change to true on firewall main is deprecated. So that tells us that we need to look inside our security YAML because that's where our firewalls live. And under main, I'm going to add in this new key that it's telling me about, logout on user change, and just set that to true. And again, I'm really just following the guidance there as to what it's telling me. Although I completely understand that if you're new to Symfony, these messages are scary and confusing, at least potentially. So we're down to 7. Let's give this a refresh now. Deprecations. Now these two are a little less obvious, but the fix that we're going to put in place is generic and will solve both of them. So as I mentioned in the previous video, simply bumping up our Symfony version inside Composer.json is not sufficient. We've just bumped up Symfony. But yeah, if we look at the Symfony Standard Edition on GitHub, and then take a look at the code, and what we want to do here is look inside their composer.json file, and we also want to make sure that we're on the latest tag. So what we're going to do here is just take a look at everything inside the require and require dev. So I'm just going to copy the whole lot out. This is how I do it anyway. I'll just add this 2 new sections in, and you can see PHP Storm is kicking off here because it's saying, you know, these keys already exist. Now I'm going to show you a little cheat that I use here. So we could look at them and actually just compare them visually, but there's a much easier way. Take a copy of that out, make sure to add in your comma there, and then what this is going to do is highlight all the duplicates. So it just makes it really straightforward to figure out what's changed. So again, get rid of that one. Doctrine bundle 1.6, that one's the same. ORM 2.5, that's the same. What about that one? So distribution bundle is slightly different. So I'll just add that in and take the more specific version. Again, framework extra bundle, massively different. Drop that one in. Monologue, sufficiently different also. And that's one of the warnings that we're getting, I think, to do with the PSR login. And Swift Mailer bundle, again, different. So let's get that one in there. So that should be good enough there. Required dev, we're on 3.0 for generator and 3.0 for PHP unit bridge. Both of those are the same. So I'm just going to get rid of all of that now and do a composer update. So I'm just going to cancel out them log files there and do a composer update. Okay, so that should have brought in the changes, and I'm going to browse back to my app, give it a refresh, and I should be able to just refresh this as well. We're down to 4 deprecations, even though we're only really seeing 2. You could see this one's grouped 3 instances together, and we'll look at that in the very next video.